Well, parents of pupils with special needs and organizations representing people living with disabilities have marched to the office of KwaZulu-Natal, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal. Now, parents are calling on the provincial government to build more schools suited for children with special needs, where they've also raised issues in regard to allegations of poor management at the schools that are already there. KZN currently has 75 public special needs schools. SABC News reporter J.B. Paulse is tracking the story for us. Jay, good afternoon. Perhaps you can give us an update on your end as parents and organizations have marched to the Premier's office.
Well, a very good afternoon. It's been 2 hours since we've been stationed outside the provincial legislature. We do know that they are tabling the budget as we speak. This large group of parents and learners have been standing out for 2 hours. And you know what the saddest part is? We've actually seen children fainting from the heat. It's extremely hot today in Pietermaritzburg, but these parents are calling on government to address them. They want the Premier of the province, Nomusa Dube, to come out of that budget speech and come and address them and speak to their needs. They're saying that they simply cannot have a government that does not talk to the needs of special needs learners. As you said in your intro, there are more than 70 schools in KwaZulu-Natal, and most of the schools are falling apart. Many of them don't have adequate facilities, adequate equipment, don't have nurses, don't have the basics to cater for students with special needs. I am joined by some of the parents that are stationed outside the provincial legislature. They have been here throughout the course of the day. So just talk to us about your challenges back at home.
Okay, my child is having problems at the school because of lack of funds. Okay, firstly, to get to school is a transport issue. Then there's no drivers. The drivers are not being paid. So for them with a wheelchair to get into school by normal transport is very, very difficult. Certain teachers are not being paid. Plus, the government now wants to cut the funding for the school. So instead of example, they used to give 10,000 or 100,000. Now they want to reduce that amount. And how do we get the teachers get paid to give these special needs children an education? Education is important. You know, we've been here so long, and at least they should have thought about the kids. We have children in wheelchairs. We actually had a child collapse, like about 2 children that collapsed. But in there, nobody's caring about us. You know, that is why we are. You see parents came from far and wide. In this heat we are standing. It's gone more than 2 hours now we've been here. You see, that's the problem we are facing. And this is not the first time we have come. It's not about the 3rd time we've been here. And we're still not getting answers. We're not getting answers at all. You know, that's the thing we are facing. Financial issues for the school. For the school to function as a school and do what it's supposed to do, give the child an education.
The school that you talk of, where is the school?
Our school is in Chatsworth, Demarosa. Quite a big school. We have plus minus 300 learners, quite a few teachers. We have a vehicle for the school, but the drivers are not getting paid. Thus now we have our children at home, no education. We almost finished the first quarter and they haven't been to school. They've been at home because the school is on shutdown.
Is your school one of the schools that has the challenge where the Department of Education is providing a transport but is not actually funding or not paying the driver?
You know, we have the buses, but the problem is they're not funding the drivers. Also, there's other special needs teachers who have the ability to teach these new learners. They are not getting it. That's the problem. You know, if we reduce those teachers, how do our children get an education? See, that's what we are facing, our problems.
Thank you for talking to us. I'm going to try and squeeze in one more parent here. Ma'am, you're also among many of the parents that have been standing outside here. You and I spoke off camera. You were assisting one of the kids that fell. Just the situation back at home.
Situation is very bad at the moment. We are trying by all means to calm the children down because they've been panicking. They've been very aggressive that they want to go back to school. They miss school, you know. So, you know, it's very bad. It's very bad. They miss school, but then they can't go to school if the situation is like this.
Are you a parent or a teacher?
Yes, I'm a parent.
And talk to us about your son or daughter.
My son is 16 and he wants to go back to school, but there's challenges at school. The teachers are unemployed permanently. The buses, they break oftenly, and the drivers are not employed, they are not permanently employed. The security guard at school, there's just one security guard, and he's not getting enough payment. The aunt that cooks, it's just bad,
I know in KwaZulu-Natal we've also had a problem where students are not being fed through the feeding schemes. Is this particular school one of those schools that have also...
It's part of that school. Yeah, sometimes it happens that the children are not fed at school. Yeah.
Is your son here today?
Yeah, he's here.
Before I let you go, I also want to talk to you about how far is the particular school. First tell us where the school is and how far is it from home, because I know that transport has been an issue, taking kids. I spoke to a mum that was from Umkamas, but the child was in Umzinto, and it was a very long distance. Unfortunately, she didn't want to speak to us on camera, but talk to us about the distance that some of these kids have to travel. Is your child also experiencing that?
Yeah, we come from very far. We are from Umbumbulu, and we go as far as Chatsworth for him to get to school. I spend 70 rands, 80 rands a day for him to get to school and back home. Spending that, the bus only takes him halfway, like from Chatsworth to Mobeni. And then from Mobeni, he goes back on his own.
And then obviously there's the safety aspect of this as well.
I always panic when it's time for him to come home. I always panic because I know his situation. He feeds, things can happen to him on the way. But then I always say I trust God, for him to come home safe.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Well, these are real stories coming from the ground here in Pietermaritzburg with these parents and learners. Parents who are calling on the provincial government to come and speak to them, calling on the Premier Nomusa Dube to come and listen to them, to listen to their cries. As you heard some of the parents talking about transport issues that they have from the special needs schools. Many are saying that they reside so far away from these schools, and unfortunately the SGB members are footing the bill from these buses. The Department of Education is not paying these drivers to be able to ferry kids to school. So these are the challenges on the ground. We are going to try and see if we can't speak to the Department of Education or the provincial government to give us a word or two, a right of reply, and possibly meet the demands of some of the parents here on the ground. But we'll be keeping you up to breast with all the latest that's happening from Pietermaritzburg at this march. It's back to you.
Thanks, Jade. Let's continue to monitor that story as it unfolds. There again, perhaps, as you mentioned, getting right of reply from both the Department of Education, the province, as well as the Premier's office.